One Piece chapter 971. Now this was a pretty good chapter in comparison to the last two we had, because I feel like the flow of this chapter felt a bit more natural, and it also gave us context to things that a lot of people had issues with ever since Odin's arrival back in Wano. I think people still have issues with it. I personally don't think it's that big of an issue, but I would definitely say that I do question Odin's thought process in all of this, because he definitely chose to do the wrong things. Now that's not a bad thing, that's just Odin's character, but I did feel like this is a good chapter, and I do think it's a good leeway to end this flashback. I think we have about 2 or 3 more chapters before we go back to the current timeline, which is something that I'm kind of excited for, because it's been a while since we've seen the Straw Hats and everyone else, and also the fact that the last chapter we had right before the flashback was a massive tease, whereas something happened to the Alliance, and it was also a big drop off pretty much. So I'm looking forward to that, and I think people did say that this is the longest flashback in the story. But anyways, let's start from the beginning. Now the chapter starts off with a conversation between Momo and Toki, and Momo realizes that today is the day that his father is going to get executed, which brings him to a grim realization. Now we also know that at some point Momo does witness his father getting killed, and we also know that there was some conversation between Momo and Kaido based on the little tidbits that we saw in the Zou arc and arcs prior to that. So I think we can expect that Momo will come here to the execution platform eventually, again probably towards Odin's final words. Now Toki doesn't seem to be bothered by any of this, which is very interesting. Now we do know that she eventually sends more most of the scabbards into the future, but we might also get to see the reason why some people were kept back as well, like Hiyori, Ashura Doji, and those guys, and as well as her giving that speech about how the 9 scabbards will eventually take down the Shogun 20 years from now. But it seems like she already knew that this was going to happen. Now she does have the time fruit, and I'm pretty sure that there's other ways of using that fruit other than just jumping through time, which is probably why she knows about the 9 scabbards and the Shogun 20 years in the future. Now we then move on to the execution of Odin and his 9 scabbards, and here we get all the answers that we were looking for ever since the last few chapters. Now initially I thought that Odin was boiled in like hot water. That's what I assumed ever since we got the information of him dying in Zou, but it turns out that it's hot oil, which is absolutely insane. Now Odin does tell Kaido that he should give them a chance to survive, and that if any one of them were to survive the boiling within a certain time limit, they should be let free, in which Kaido agrees to under the condition that they were able to survive for 1 hour. And here you could see the dynamic between Orochi and Kaido, and it seems like Kaido has the most say in any matter, which makes sense because Kaido is the superior of the two. And here we can see that Kaido does have some honor, because in the last chapter people felt like Kaido cheap shotted Odin, which doesn't make any sense because that was a war. There's no such thing as a cheap shot during wartime, and here we see that he literally gives them a chance to survive and escape, which is what happened because we all know that all 9 scabbards did survive. Now Odin gets into the pot, and right away he feels the heat. Now what's kind of interesting here is that Odin might be using some form of ornaments to sort of protect his body from the heat, because earlier we saw that a guy fell into the pot but he was instantly killed, and even some of the Oniwa Banshu made a comment about Odin having abnormal skin. Or is it that Odin is extremely durable? Again, I'm not exactly sure, but I think it makes more sense that Odin is using some form of ornaments, definitely not hardening but more so Ryuo across his entire body. And of course Odin, being the man that he is, used the cover of the pot to keep all of his scabbards atop. And I think this panel here was definitely the highlight of the chapter for me. So not only is Odin holding up all 9 scabbards, but he's also boiling in hot oil. I think you can definitely respect that. Now Odin's decision is what made his scabbards get to this point. So he is taking responsibility for his actions because he knows that the reason why this is happening is because of him. And so this is his way of taking responsibility. And we finally learn as to why he was dancing for 5 years, and this all started with an agreement that Odin had with Orochi 5 years ago. And we come to learn from Shinobu that the reason Odin was dancing every week was to take responsibility on the behalf of the entirety of Wano because of what happened to Orochi, and also because he would save 100 lives. And obviously this promise was broken given Orochi's nature, and ultimately this is Odin's fault for trusting a pirate and someone who was out for revenge. Odin definitely made the wrong move here, and it seems like there's a huge theme around the idea of Odin in taking responsibility. Odin seems to be someone that stays true to himself, and it is ultimately what got him to this point. I feel like there's a lot of symbolism here in Odin's actions, and I think that was well done on Oda's part, but I think where most of the question lies is within Odin's character. But this was a pretty good chapter. I'm definitely looking forward to how things are going to play out, given that we're getting closer to the climax of this flashback. But comment down below what you guys think, like the video if you liked it, and subscribe for more One Piece content. It is Pharaoh, and I will see you folks later. Peace.